Hi, and welcome to a reading of The Fourth Dimension, written by Matias De Stefano in the IM. Presented by me, your friend and fellow seeker Alex. I hope you enjoy, and without further ado, let's get into it. The Fourth Dimension. First day alone in the pyramid again, and after a month away I sit on its floor again and contemplate its walls as I muttered some chant that became a harmonic echo inside the king's chamber. So, looking at it in perspective, putting my intention to receive information about the fourth dimension, I start to think about the strange reason why the camera, instead of being a cube, is a rectangular prism. You know why, right? I guess, but I don't think I have all the data. The ancient Atlantean temples used to be based on the cube as the primordial form of existence, and therefore construction. However, they were very clear about something. A cube by itself does not project into other dimensions. To do so, it must open an interdimensional door in its center, and to do so, it must be polarized. Thus, a cube like a cell duplicates itself, elongating itself, and creating an equal to its side that generates a rectangular prism. That is, two cubes together with a nexus in its center, invisible, subtle, and it speaks of an interdimensional opening. The cube is the primordial form of the basis of existence, which give rise to all other realities, and contains in its geometry all the fundamental codes. But by itself, without movement, and therefore without polarization, it cannot generate or express or manifest anything. That is why it fractalizes, replicating itself, opening a part of its being in the same way that a cell, when dividing, shares genetic material from its chromosomes, creating a new cell. The rectangular prism, then, is the summary of a vesica Pisces, two circles or spheres that are connected to each other by connecting their peripheries with the nucleus of their neighboring sister. Expand your inner potential to the outside, and so the outside responds in a constant cycle. It is the same projected being, and in that interaction, the partition of a potential is produced, which we call a portal. Thus, in the center of a rectangular chamber, you find the center of an interdimensional portal of the prism. I understand, and that way they can traverse from one dimension to another. Well, not through, but become. All dimensions exist as foundations of the same being, which in one dimension observes its unity and polarity, in another it's just plane or figure, in another its shape and spatial object, in another its temporal process, and so on. Each aspect of being is contemplated in one of the attributes of its own existence. To see a particular dimension, your whole being must vibrate in tune with that dimension you want to perceive. Thus, the internal aspect of said dimension will emerge from you, manifesting itself on the outside. It would be to continue with the idea of the sock turning a sock inside out to see what is inside. As we have seen from the second dimension, the dimensions are replications of the fractalization of this initial figure. If in the second you get a figure of a square, in the third you get a cube, and in the fourth you'll see a tesseract. What is a tesseract? In 1888, the writer and mathematician Charles Hinton wrote about the hypercube as a way to understand the simple workings of the fourth dimension. He called it the four rays, referring to the edges that connect the outer cubes with the inner cube. In Greek, four rays is said tesseris actines, which composes the unique term tesseractus. That gives us tesseract. It is the 4D version of the cube, which would be the 3D version of the 2D square. Each 2D figure will create a 3D version that will give us a 4D version. Although they are not called tesseracts since they will have more or less rays, this concept coined the global idea of the fourth dimension. So the fourth would be a replica of the 3D, either inwards or outwards connected by edges. But with something else, movement. The movement of the 4D is something fascinating because the internal aspect tends to expand outwards through the larger figure, leaving it inside, being able to do the same in any direction through any face, edge, or vertex. Like giving up the ditty, in other words, in the same process of going from 2D to 3D, as I explained yesterday, turning the structure around through fractalization. That process that leads from one to the other is what is called 4D. That's right, and as we have said, the dimensions are not separate stages or planes, but measures of the same reality, which appear as the process or object. That is, time, process, or space object. Some dimensions are more linked to time and others more linked to space. For example, the 2D, 4D, and 8D triad is the expansion of the process, that is, of the temporary measure of a reality, while the triad of 3D, 6D, and 9D describe the spatial confirmation of reality. What about the 1D, 5D, and 7D? It is the triad of enlightenment and consciousness, the triad that connects and orders the others, making it possible for existence and beings through time and space. I understand. So the 4D is part of the temporal triad. The second dimension speaks of the figure, the planning. The fundamental idea opens all possibilities. The fourth will be the dimension that describes the planning process, the stages that the being must go through in all directions, be it past, present, or future. And the eighth dimension will be the one that embodies all these processes in each being, in the supra-existence, where not only the history of an individual is recorded, but all of them at the same time. When we hear about the fourth dimension, we usually think about the place where all the angelic or demonic entities, being from other worlds, are. But are there really entities that live there? Every entity you can imagine. The 4D is related to the process of time, and that is to say that all beings that live a temporal process are in the fourth dimension. But wait, that encompasses everyone. Because we all live in a life process. Days go by, we grow, we age, we live experience. That is, each human, plant, animal is living in the 4D, in the act of to live. That's right. Remember, dimensions are just facets, edges in the fractal geometry of life. The 3D space lives life looking at the cube, but goes through different processes with this cube. Imagine that the cube is your body. Your body went from being two separate cells, sperm and egg, to become the zygote, and then be a fetus, then a baby, a child, an adolescent, then an adult, then an elder, and then to die to become other things dissolved in nature. Your body multiplies its cells by millions daily, with which each day you transform what you are in cell multiplication, produced in a way similar to the tesseract. 4D is constantly transforming you, but you only focus on the body, not on the temporal process, because the perception of 3D is designed to receive the pulses of the senses, not to assimilate time as something real. Therefore, even so you know that time is passing, you consider it more as an external measure than an internal process. In 4D, time is palpable. In the same way that 3D, you can feel matter with your senses, the senses of 4D can perceive time, smell the past and taste the future, or touch the present. You can see the eternal. Thus, everything that was perceived by the senses over time is constituted as a reality in the 4D. That is to say that a being that lives only in 4D could manipulate processes and times in the same way that we can here manipulate matter and space. This is something you have already done, and it is the reason that you were born. The decision of birthing your astrological chart, of finding the correct influence of planets and stars in a time plan in which your being in 4D can be molded and see what will be, what was and what is and what will be, as if molding plaster clay. They can see the future as if it were a landscape. Exactly. Now imagine yourself traveling down a highway. This landscape that you will see has many levels. By perspective, the closest things move fast, and the farthest things seem slow. You can see them even if they are far away, knowing that they will arrive and get faster the closer you are. In 4D, what you will see will not be objects or landscapes, but circumstances. Thus, the closest or the farthest are situations in the story, and this allows you to see what happened and what will happen. This is the primordial base of the 4D, which is outside of space and can only be understood in the vision of the time, exactly the opposite of 3D. From this dimension, the third, we can see space and understand time as space transforms, while in the fourth, the perception of space can only be given based on seeing what happens in time. Following the logic that the point or line in the base of the flat figure and the foundation of the three-dimensional structure, then this physical object will be the foundation of the vision of time. For this reason, the 3D pattern or object is the one that molds the potentialities of the 4D story, making all the probabilities exist in itself, as if they were many bodies inside my body, a type of Russian doll connected by geometry, with a Matias that is getting smaller and smaller towards the microcosm, and one that is getting bigger and bigger towards the macrocosm. And every time I transform, it's as if one of them takes my place, like a snake that sheds its skin, but instead of leaving it, the skin is sucked in, letting the new one out to take its place. That's right, and that projection is multiplied at each level. What is inside will happen outside, and thus your sensations come true at a 4D level. This explains why you call hell, heaven, purgatory, and all those entities inhabit in 4D. Because everything that inhabits the 4D is nothing more than your own inner worlds, your dreams, your perceptions, sensations, ideas, beliefs, emotions, manifested outside of matter, free of patterns, and capable of being external. When before these concepts were part of the human inner world in 4D, they expand, becoming external factors, so that it is that 3D designs the realities of 4D. For example, a trauma, a nightmare, something you hide inside is projected outside in 4D, becoming eternal. It cannot be hidden in the past, and it becomes real, perceptible, making that nightmare manifest in this dimension. If you are afraid of a specific animal, it will manifest as your greatest demon in the 4D. The place that has given you the most peace in your life will become your eternal paradise in 4D. The people you have loved in your life will receive you with the same love when you die and protect you in the 4D. As you can see, 4D is the eternal design field of everything you feel in matter. Therefore, in this dimension you will find worlds similar to the ones you have left, but unlike matter in this plane, everything is eternal. Because it is the fractal plane and mirror of 3D, it is the place where minds feel most comfortable when dying. Death is like the great step of the tesseract from 3D to 4D, and all those who are clinging to the images and expectations of their lives usually spend time without time in this dimension, considering it hell or heaven, ultimate end of the soul. When in reality it is not. It is just a mirage of the life that you have experienced, but without the laws of time and space based on physics. So everything that we live or exist in the 4D is just a distorted idea of the 3D. We could say that the 4D is the deep decorator of your mind. Everything you feel or believe in this reality will be your eternal reality if you remain tied to this energy after you die. This explains why each culture, religion, individuals sees when they die what fits their own expectation. Some will see angels while others see Krishna or Christ. The tunnel that most of us experience is not the passage from one place to another, but just a cube expanding and becoming another in this tesseract, passing from a dense aspect to a subtle one, and therefore clarity is seen, light at the end of the tunnel. But in a certain way, what you see after your death will depend on what you feel and live in your death, and how you have lived your life. What I imagine is what becomes me in reality in 4D. Therefore, 4D beings take the forms you imagine. Demons, angels, entities, etheric insects, extraterrestrials, relatives, animals, plants, beings of light, psychedelic figures, utopian places. It is a deceptive dimension where everything is a disguised time. And if I go there, is it eternal? Is it forever? Only if you manifest it that way. Eternity is a subjective sensation. A minute can seem like eternity. Many spend long periods in this dimensional space, being that, on Earth, only 5 minutes have passed. Most are trapped in the idea of what they lived, and wander almost forever as ghosts. Ghosts, yes, souls that have been trapped in the passage from one dimension to another for not wanting to let go of space, which makes them prisoners of time. If you let yourself go, you'll be able to manage time and will eventually freely choose your next experience in space. Otherwise, my very being, by magnetism, will force me to be born again in a similar pattern, going back again and again, which the tesseract becomes like an amusement park ride. I myself will create what happens in 4D, and I am not aware of it. It is the 4D that will create me. It is the constant and eternal cycle of the circular time process. Is there a way to get out of the circuit? Go out? No, because you would cease to exist. But you can learn to use it for your advantage. For the 4D to be useful and not control you, you must learn to live fully and harmoniously in the 3D. Correct nutrition, allow emotions to flow, heal traumas, transcend your fears, and transform ideas, beliefs, and patterns. Open yourself to all possibilities and practice detachment. Raise your vibration through joy. The inner cube of your tesseract is your heart. If it beats freely and in harmony, everything that you expand from it will invade with love, and all that you are inside and outside, connecting you with all your potentialities without clinging to any of them. What about those who say they don't have to go to the 4D, but you have to get to the 5D? The 5D is the interconnection factor of the 3D and the 4D. The 5D is the one that gives meaning, logic, clarity to the other two. Tell me, without fully understanding neither 3D nor 4D, what do you hope to get from 5D? In a way, it would be like having a beautiful remote control but no batteries and a broken television. Now I understand. The control would be the 5D, the batteries the 4D, and the television the 3D. To connect with the 5D is necessary that time and space are in complete harmony. If you do not achieve this balance, the 4D entities will live off of you. They will feed on your energy and they will see you as their batteries, their cells, nourishing themselves from your processes, from your time and space. And it is how you know the parasites. And this is how you know the parasites, interdimensional, lower astral. The astrals are here then. The astral concept comes from the Greek aster, which means star. The lower, medium, or higher astral concepts refer to the intensity of the light of the stars, the brightness being the high ones and the darkest being the more distant ones, the lower ones. In the times when the perspective of heaven was not interpreted by distance but by size, the concept described that in the temporal or subtle plane, there are entities of lightness and darkness that are reflected in the stars, hence the term. However, now you understand that they are not astral, but vibrational. Entities are formed from higher or lower frequencies. I feel the higher ones are freer and more expanded, and the lower ones are more compact and dense. Thus, depending on the density of the cube, the projection of the tesseract will generate a dense creature. So if you want to project a good eternity, you just have to smile and deeply love what you are with your heart, and the echo will be replicated in all realities, balancing time and space. I am love. I am love in all, through time and space. Smile, and your smile will be eternal.